Hello and welcome to another edition of the Aces Loaded podcast. My name is Zack Bayrouty. So glad to have you with us. Happy end of June. It's hard to believe that we're getting into the month of July, and we're still kind of in this. It's a bit strange where we all are right now, and at the time we're recording this, which is the 25th. There's some stuff going on between Major League Baseball and the Players Union, and it's some positive things, some positive steps being taken that I do want to address. First of all, I want to set up the show. It's a different show than what we normally do. Normally, we'll have a co-host who's on this intro with me, and then the outro. But we're gonna do something different today. First of all, following this segment, we're going to talk to Kaycea Wallen, who's the executive director of marketing at Grand Sierra Resort. So we're going to take kind of a local approach and let you know what GSR is doing since they've reopened, how they've implemented certain safety measures to ensure that you're still going to get the same great experience when you go to GSR that you normally would get just under some different circumstances. So we'll talk with Kaycea coming up. Our next segment after that is going to be a roundtable, which is why I'm solo right now, because we're going to have a roundtable, and it's going to be a social media roundtable with some members of the Diamondbacks family as far as the affiliates. We're going to talk with our guy, AJ Grimm. He's going to be on the panel. He's with your Reno Aces. He's in his second season as the social media manager. Jill Guerin of the Visalia Rawhide, who's also one of the few female broadcasters in the industry. We'll talk with Jill, who also runs the social media for the Visalia Club. And then Casey Sawyer in his 8th season with the Hillsborough Hops, and we'll get his perspective on what it's like to have social media on your radar at this time and be somebody that's in charge of running a social media account for a baseball team. Really fascinating times, obviously, that we're living in, but specifically with these people and what they're having to do and having to balance with running social media accounts. But for the open today, I just wanted to address and maybe help you along with what it's like to be a baseball fan today. It's challenging. I'll say that. It's in many ways challenging because as a fan, I think especially today in with what's going on, not only with COVID and all that, but what's going on labor-wise with baseball, as a fan, you have to try and reconcile two very different elements of the sport. And those two elements are the purity of the game and then the business element. Now, I'm 37 years old. I remember in 1994 going through the 1994 Major League Baseball strike, and I was 11. And as a kid, I had no concept. I didn't understand any of what was going on. And I would have played, as an 11-year-old kid, I would have played for the Boston Red Sox for free. I grew up in Worcester, Massachusetts, and I was a diehard Red Sox fan, and I couldn't comprehend the fact that players chose not to play a game that I was dying to play. Now, obviously, perspective comes into play. Years removed from that, I understand why that had to happen, and I have better perspective, having especially worked my entire life in the industry, with understanding why the 94 labor strife was there. I have a more comprehensive understanding of the landscape between the players union and the owners, which is complicated, and we're not going to get into that completely, the ins and outs of that. But I do want to say that you can't have one element without the other. You can't have, unfortunately, the purity element and the business element, they are together in this. So as a fan, again, those are very hard to reconcile. And if you look back on the history of baseball, there are many times in the course of the history of the game where there has been, I don't want to say strife, but there's been hardship. There's been growing pains. You look back to the reserve clause, which, if you're a baseball historian, goes back to, I mean, way back. The reserve clause came off in the 70s, I want to say, where you had free agency. But if you're unfamiliar with the reserve clause, what it used to mean for baseball, basically a team drafted a player, and that player was an indentured servant, for lack of a better way of saying it. They had no free agency leverage. Maybe the team would trade them. That was an option for the team, but the player really had no option. And if you think about what the game was like then and what the game would still be like today, if you had that reserve clause and if the players did not have a voice, it would be a much different game today. And I would submit that it would be, I don't want to say a much worse game today, but it would not be better off for having that reserve clause. And when when that clause was being fought by the players, I mean, it was tough. People struggled to understand why this was happening and why free agency was needed. But again, the game is better because that clause is gone and because the players fought to remove it. And if you want, you can go back even further to the integration of the game, to Jackie Robinson, 1947. Remember, at the time, I mean, we're looking back now a long ways. At the time, that was controversial and it was polarizing. But could you imagine not having gone through that if baseball hadn't gone through the Jackie Robinson experience and everybody else that followed him, players of color that followed him? I mean, it was, at the time, something uncomfortable that baseball had to go through, but something essential that baseball had to go through. And the point being that growth can sometimes be painful, no matter how you look at it, but it is necessary. It's necessary. And right now, you're at a point in the game where, from the player's perspective, and I know it's amounts of money to which most of us can't really relate, but from the player's perspective, they're fighting for a share of what they're entitled to. They are revenue generators in the game, and the revenue landscape in baseball has changed dramatically. And with that, the collective bargaining agreements have to change. The dynamics of how revenue comes in changes. So as players, you need to figure out what that new landscape is and then negotiate for your piece of it. And Sean Doolittle, who I know because I had him with the Stockton Ports a couple of times around, he's a great guy, and I know many of you are familiar with Sean, had a great tweet about this, and he's a great follow on social media at What Would Do. But players today are fighting for the betterment of players tomorrow. That's essentially what his tweet said. And really, he said that they're trying to set precedents for future generations. So with that being said, you can kind of understand why the players are fighting this battle now and why it has to happen, because you're setting a precedent for players that are coming after you. My sincere hope is that they find a way to incorporate low-level minor leaguers into whatever is going to be next for the CBA and take care of them better. I think major league players have a voice in that. Minor league players, as of right now, don't have much of a voice, and I would hope that they, through all of this, can come out with some kind of better arrangement for minor league players. But that is the business side of this, and unfortunately, that element does exist. And you know what? It has to exist. And I want to be clear, I'm not absolving the players and the union from negotiating in good faith. Like, both sides need to do that. The players need to do that. The owners, I want to say the owners, not the union. The owners absolutely have to do that. But it's the players who bear the brunt of the public scrutiny because the amount of money they make is amounts of money that we can't comprehend. But also keep in mind that Major League Baseball is so insanely specialized. It's an insanely specialized skill to be able to play Major League Baseball. And the scrutiny that comes with that is unbelievable. The pressure that comes with that is unbelievable. And there aren't many people out there that can handle all that. So before you complain about the amount of money that players make, realize that in a free market economy, this is the reality. This is the revenue that they generate, and they're entitled to a piece of that revenue. And also, it's a very small window they have to make this living. So these negotiations are very important. Players play for a certain amount of time. It's not a long amount of time. The owners own the team for however long they want to own the team. So that's the perspective of the players. And I just want to advocate a little bit for that because I know it's hard as casual fans to understand. The other side of this is, how do you process this as a fan? I'm here to tell you that players love playing. So no matter what, players love playing. When all the negotiations are done, players are playing the game with a pure heart, with the same joy that we have watching the games and living vicariously through them. So in that sense of the players still loving to play no matter what, the purity of the game is still very much there, and it still very much exists. Players do not let the business element of the game rob them of their joy. And you can sense that when talking to guys like John Duplantier and Kevin Crone, who've been on this podcast. Their love for the game is abundant. Their eagerness to play in front of fans and families is very apparent. So just know that. Just know that the business element is necessary, but outside of that, players have the same pure joy with which we love to watch the game. So I just want to say in closing that the next time you come to the ballpark, don't cheat yourselves. Don't be cynical. Take it all in. Enjoy the sights, enjoy the sounds, enjoy the smells, enjoy the interactions, and do it with a pure heart. And you can tap into the nostalgia like you always have. It'll still be there for the players after the negotiating is done. So let that be there for you also. And don't let what has gone on with baseball the last couple of months ruin that for you. And I hope that helps, in a way, reconcile what's going on in these two elements of baseball, the purity of it and the business side of it. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to head to GSR. We'll talk to Kaycea Wallen, Executive Director of Marketing at Grand Sierra Resort, when the Aces Loaded podcast continues. Hi, I'm Zack Bayrouty. Welcome to This Week in Aces History, powered by Eide. Each week, we will highlight significant moments from the club's past. In a July 4th matchup in 2013 versus the Colorado Springs Sky Sox, the Aces pounded out 16 hits, including 9 extra base hits, 6 doubles, and 3 triples. Last year on July 5th, Cody Decker sent the home crowd home happy with a 2-run walk-off home run in the bottom of the 9th versus the Sacramento River Cats. It would be Cody's final at-bat in professional baseball as he immediately retired after the game. Thanks for listening to the Aces Loaded podcast. That was This Week in Aces History, powered by Eide. We'll be right back. We are back on the Aces Loaded podcast, and we are headed to GSR. Yes, we are. We are going to talk with Kaycea Wallen, Executive Director of Marketing at Grand Sierra Resort. GSR, of course, proud partner of the Reno Aces. Kaycea, how are you? And we're going to talk about the reopening here in a minute of GSR, but personally, how are you?
Doing well. Having, every day is busy here. We're always busy at GSR, so we're staying busy and having a good time as safely as possible.
I hear you. Just FYI, this is like part of this interview is going to be selfish for me. I'm going to ask you what I want to ask you because I love going to GSR. So it's one of my top places in Reno, like of anything. So there's things that I want to know about going back to GSR because I will be back very soon. And we'll start with the reopening. How have things gone? And you reopened at the very beginning of June, right?
June 4th, we reopened based on Mr. Sisolak's orders to allow us to do that. Our reopening, the first day was in the morning. We thought there'd be a bigger line, or we were prepared for much higher volumes, but it did pick up after that over the weekend. So a lot of people coming in from California, they just really wanted to get out of their houses and do something. So we have signage at all the doors and entrances and social distancing markers all over property. But the opening was good and people really enjoyed getting out. And I think that was positive. But they also want to stay safe. So we encourage masks at most places.
It's great to reopen, and I think everybody's excited because it means hopefully there are brighter days ahead. But what gave you guys the most pause before you reopened? What were your biggest concerns when you set the date and then proceeded forward with the reopening?
The biggest pause was just making sure that we keep everyone safe, including team members and guests alike. That's safety and everybody's health is our priority. So we wanted to make sure that all our guests were in a good environment, that we felt comfortable opening the doors, and that everyone could come here and feel safe. And we've done a lot. We sprayed all the surfaces down with protection that kills viruses for 90 days. So just making sure that everybody, employees and guests alike, were all safe coming back was our main priority.
So you're getting into it a little bit, the new safety measures. I want to get into that. Do players have to wear masks? I assume employees are all masked up.
So as of last night at 5 p.m. or the governor came out and said that all guests will need to wear a mask at this point. So when we opened, it wasn't all guests, and just a couple days ago, table games started wearing masks. But starting soon, all guests will have to have a mask. And kind of the what they're saying is that no shirt, no shoes, no shirt, no mask, no service. So you got to have all those things. You got to have that shoes, got to have that shirt, and got to have the mask. And we will be having security at every entrance, handing out masks, and making sure that we're following all the regulations that the government is sending out to us and the CDC guidelines.
So it's not the Kenny Chesney song, "No shoes, no shirt, no problem," right? It's like the exact opposite. Like it's a big problem if you're not really geared up to go in. Which is the way it is most places.
And like in table games, we've actually, because we started that sooner than everybody, and it's actually everybody's been really great about it. We haven't had a lot of problems or issues. We have mask available in the pit, and everybody's just been really, I think, appreciative that we're open. So they're willing to follow the rules, which has been great.
You might not know, and I don't even think officials know, but do you know how long this might last as far as the masks being mandatory and the short tables with, like, I know blackjack, you can only have, 3 seats, or depending on if you have like the plexiglass, maybe you can have 5 or 6, but do you know how long that all lasts?
Oh, it's going to go until the governor says that we can't, don't need those precautions. So I don't think anybody's really sure what that looks like. The plexiglass has been really nice. People really like that though, and we're trying to bring more of that in. And then the 3 seats, I think it's actually comfortable. It's a little more comfortable,
I can imagine. I'm a blackjack player, so I'm trying to imagine you have a little more elbow room. But that being said, it's still, I think, especially for people that are regulars, it's still a bit surreal to have to go through all this. I mentioned I love going to GSR. I love it because there's an experience you can have at GSR that maybe you don't get at other places. So that being said, how do you give people that GSR experience they're used to while still being socially responsible and following all these guidelines?
Yeah, so, entertainment's a big component of what we do here at GSR, and currently we can't have entertainment. So we're just trying to allow the people to come in and have that great feeling on the casino floor while still being safe. We're just checking in with everybody, making sure I feel welcomed. Just have the feeling of GSR. If you come in the building, obviously, we added a brand new, amazing chandelier in the front of the building that is so grand and so GSR. It has over 600,000 Egyptian lights. Little things like that we did when we were closed to kind of bring people back to that grand experience is something we did besides safety. Obviously, all the safety stuff aside, got to come check out the new chandelier. It's amazing.
I was going to say that I stayed at GSR in late February because I came up to host an event for the Aces, their hot stove. And I ended up staying there, and there was a lot of construction going on in the front. So I was going to ask, like, what became of all that? And I'm sure you guys were working on that while everything was closed. Maybe it was a good time to be doing that. So how does it look different in the front?
So yeah, the chandelier we added, like I said, it has 18 butterflies in the chandelier, and it's just all sparkly and gorgeous and so many LED lights. It actually came in from China, which is really interesting because our engineers that were supposed to install that were supposed to come from China, and unfortunately because of COVID they couldn't come. So
not happening.
Engineers here on property were telecommunicating in Mandarin on how to put this light in. It's a really kind of cool story. But that new centerpiece at the front of our building is amazing. And when you just walk in the door, you feel as if you're at one of the most grand. You don't even know that you're in Reno. You kind of have that Las Vegas feeling. Mm-hmm. Feeling like, wow, this chandelier is so beautiful. And then all of our ceilings got remodeled, and up by Crystal Lounge we elevated the ceiling to have an even more spacious casino look and feel. So we think that we're the most spacious casino in Reno already. So that having those high ceilings and those great sight lines and spacing out the slot floor, we've put all circle banks in, so you never feel like you're in a middle seat anymore. And that also is great for COVID, obviously for social distancing. So we've just really gone back and try to learn from how to make people feel more comfortable and more safe at GSR in the casino environment. Environment.
Oh, you're good. I can attest to the spaciousness of GSR. It's part of the reason I like being there, especially for table games and for craps. Like it's a great vibe. A couple more quick items before we let you go. You guys have great restaurants. Do those same measures apply? You know, if you want to go to Charlie Palmer Steak or wherever and sit down for a meal.
So Charlie Palmer, when you actually get in the restaurant at your table, you are going to be allowed to take off your mask. So, because you have to eat, obviously. But yeah, all the social distancing, we actually had a lounge area that we turned into more dining space. So we could continue to give people the great service and get as many people as we can in safely. So we've just redesigned all of our restaurants and all of our tables and our seating areas to try to be as safe as possible, but also give customers the best feeling possible. And we love Charlie Palmer's, so my favorite restaurant here. So
I've had a couple great meals there myself. And last but not least, the outside driving range and the pool, especially the pool. I think people are probably concerned with having to go in pools right now. You guys have a phenomenal pool at GSR. What's the protocol there?
So similar, the layout is completely different. All the chairs have been socially distanced across the whole pool. And then we also have capacity limitations in each outlet, not just the pool, but all the outlets. So we have a certain amount of people that can come in and out, and we count specifically. And when we get to that number, we do stop. So we've done so many different protocols across property. And then outside of the driving range, luckily the driving range is pretty much socially distanced.
Right.
So that's great. So that's been kind of a little bit more, it's been an easier process out, and it's outside. So the driving range, our hours of operation are a little bit limited right now, but we will be going back to the full hours. But the outdoor driving range is like the locals' favorite. So it is open. Come out and see us. Come out and check it out. We've added an electronic system to getting the balls out of the machine so that we can kind of those touch points. There was not so many touch points with other team members. So we're keeping a little more safe and not touching everything. So that's a really cool addition that we added out there.
Well, I'm glad to hear everything's going so well. I'm glad to hear, as I knew you guys would, have everything mapped out, and you seem to have this down to a science. I'm going to come up and play the gold game, the Keno gold game, even if that's all I can do for a little while. 11, 12, 33, 54, and 17. Those are my Keno numbers at GSR. So
I got to tell you that we just had our largest penny jackpot in history at GSR paid out this week, $156,000 on an $8.88 spin on a Konami game. Check out our social media and Facebook for that. I've been in casinos for 15 years and I've never seen a penny game pay that much money. So,
I mean, I'm a table game guy and I'll play some Keno, but I mean, maybe I need to get into slots. I mean, $8.88, that's a pretty good payout. And if people want to follow your socials, where can they go?
Grand Sierra Resort at Instagram, on Instagram, and then just Facebook Grand Sierra Resort as well.
Awesome. Kaycea, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for the time, and I hope to see you soon up at GSR, all right?
Thanks, Zach. Have a great day.
You too. That is Kaycea Wallen, the Executive Director of Marketing at Grand Sierra Resort, and we are back with more Aces Loaded podcast after this. All right, man, who we got next? What are we doing?
So, before we get into the next segment, I need a quick seventh inning stretch, if you don't mind, like a little lunch.
You need to take me out to the ball game, seventh inning stretch? Like you need me to play?
No, just like a little lunch, just to refresh for the rest of the show, so we can close out strong.
All right, what you got?
So my friends at Jersey Mike's hooked us up. They have multiple locations in South Reno and in Sparks. And they have these new Lunchable boxes. Have you heard about these?
No.
So you order this box. It comes with the sandwich that you want, a bag of chips, a cookie, all the condiments that you want. And you can just grab it and go. Like, it's so simple. And in the days of social distancing, it's the perfect food. Like, I hooked myself up here with an Italian because I'm an East Coast Italian. So I got the original Italian with Mike's way, because that's the only way to get a Jersey.
Olive oil and the vinegar and the spices. Oh, look at that.
Dude, I got to start going to Jersey Mike's more often. And I heard that if you download their app, you get special offers, all kinds of good stuff, and you can download it for free.
Just right on your phone, right? Phone or tablet?
Phone, tablet, or in the App Store.
Is that the, did you get the Aaron Judge promo?
The Aaron Judge promo, they mentioned it. What is that?
Yeah, so June 29th to July 26th, you can add for $2.99 chips in a fountain drink. For $3.49, you get chips in a bottle, a bottle of whatever your favorite beverage is. And then a portion of each sale goes to the All Rise Foundation, which is Aaron Judge Foundation, and it's up to $1 million.
Wow.
So, I mean,
That's awesome.
Yeah, so you're basically you're doing two things at once. You're getting yourself some good lunch, and then you're helping out Aaron Judge's All Rise Foundation. So
absolutely. I mean, I'm all in. I don't know about you, but I'm definitely all in. I hope some of our fans can check out this week.
Did you go to the one in South Reno or in Sparks?
I went to the one in Sparks.
Okay, but there is one in South Reno, right?
Correct.
Dude, I need to go to Jersey Mike's right this second before I can continue.
Well, you go to Jersey Mike's. I'm going to finish my Jersey Mike's, and then we'll get back to the show. We
are back on the Aces Loaded podcast. It's great to have you along. Zack Bayrouty, glad to be joined by three panelists today. We're doing a little bit something a little bit different on the pod today. We're going to talk with panelists who run social media accounts for teams in the D-backs fam. And we're going to welcome AJ Grimm from our Reno Aces, who's in his second season with the Aces. A good friend of mine, Jill Guerin from the Visalia Rawhide of the California League, the high A affiliate of the D-backs. And then Kaycea Sawyer, who's in his 8th season with the Hillsboro Hops in rookie ball. Kaycea is joining us as well. Thank you all for being here, and I'm excited to kind of delve into the experiences you all have had with trying to run social media at a very interesting time. But quick around the horn, how are you all doing? I'll start with Kaycea.
Yeah, doing all right. As you mentioned, we're one of the lower levels of pro ball, so short season franchise. Our first home game was actually supposed to be this last Monday, so
right.
Haven't missed too many opportunities yet, but otherwise doing okay. Oregon's in a place where they're being pretty cautious, so a lot of things are still closed, but staying safe, staying healthy, and that's all we can ask for right now.
Awesome. Moving up the chain to a high A in Visalia. I know Jill's not in Visalia, probably for the best because it's like probably $112 there today. But
yeah, how you doing? Doing well, thanks, Zach. I escaped Visalia to go down to Hermosa Beach, California, near LA, to be with my parents. Just seemed to be a better choice to be with family at this time. But yeah, definitely not missing the hot weather in Visalia. But family's good, healthy, happy. That's all you can ask for.
Be remiss if I didn't mention also that Jill is also the voice of the Visalia Rawhide. She is the play-by-play broadcaster, one of a handful of women who are in play-by-play right now, and it's an awesome story. And then AJ Grimm from our Reno Aces. How you doing, buddy?
Doing well, Zach. Thanks for having us again. Doing well out here. Happy some baseball is coming back finally at the major league level. Also probably have some soccer around here soon, so getting some movement, some events, some back to normal is kind of nice.
Good. I'm glad everybody's doing well, and I'm going to start here with AJ. What was the mission for social media for the Aces when all this happened? Like, I'm sure you had meetings, with Emily and Eric, and you tried to figure out where to go with the social media accounts and what you wanted to put out there. And let's go back to mid-March when all this happened. What was the goal at that point, not knowing when and if baseball would come back this year?
Yeah, I think that part right there is a hard part, not knowing when and where baseball will be back. You kind of can't plan for something you don't know when it's going to come. So it's something that we kind of worked hard toward and just be transparent to our fans. Everything we know to relay to them, we honestly kind of think did a good job of that. And it's kind of something that we take pride in, being transparent with our fans. And especially during these trying times, it can be hard. So we've got to get the pulse of the fans, get in and talk about it, and then see what we can do.
Jill, I know it was a unique situation for you because the Visalia franchise had a change in ownership. Did that affect anything you were doing at all socially?
Not too much. I usually kind of was able to do my own thing. The new owners are the Siegel family, First Pitch Entertainment, and they've been amazing. They've actually been working pretty closely with me. They want to make sure that our message is strong and that our fans are getting all the info that they need. But, I mean, we kind of were just scrambling in the beginning, thinking, well, this will hopefully only be a month or so let's just get all the information that we can out there, still keep them engaged with what's going on. And then as we realized that it was going to be longer, it was, let's find a way to get some revenue through social media. So that's what we started pushing towards that end.
How did you guys kind of handle that that ambition with getting revenue through social media? What were some of the things that were put out there?
We did a lot of flash sales, and we incorporated it with the community where we would do a grab bag auction where the first 10 people to comment would be put in a hat and they'd be picked, and they would get either a really cool signed jersey with also like a bag of toilet paper type of thing. And then half of the money we kept, and then the other half we used to spend money at some of our sponsored restaurants. And then we used that to pay for lunches for nurses in the area. So it was a big old thing of community revenue, all that.
Yeah, very, very innovative, which everybody's had to be innovative at these last few months. Kaycea, I'd imagine that you may have been better prepared than anybody, because in terms of actual baseball being played, you're with a short season club. So you're only focused on, specific baseball content, not so much specific baseball content, but say game content from June to September. So what was it like for you? And did you feel you were kind of better prepared for this because you guys didn't have a season to worry about that was supposed to start in April?
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, when it first began in March, we were hopeful that by the time June rolled around, we'd be in a better position and be able to, not necessarily have our season directly impacted. As time went along, we realized, we may not be quite ready to play ball games yet. So similar to Visalia, we made a shift to try to drive revenue through merchandise sales, and we offered free shipping. Obviously with people stuck at home, we thought, hey, this is a good incentive and a good way to capitalize. So, we jumped on that and found some pretty good success. Minor League Baseball was running their Greatest Gora competition for the, Copa de la Diversión hats. And so we ended up taking second in that, which is okay. We lost to New Mexico, but, it's all right. But we moved a few hats through that. And we did also do some of the grab bag sales as well, with, old bobbleheads, old promo items, things like that. So things that we didn't necessarily have a ton of value in, but, know that a lot of our fans see a lot of value in that. So, auction those off, and then again, donated all the proceeds to first responders by providing meals and things like that. So our main focus was to find a way to drive a little bit of revenue, but also we tried to stay as positive as we could. We tried to, add some smiles, add some laughs where we could, in a respectful manner, but, realizing that there was a lot of negative news out there, and we wanted to try to keep people as happy as we could. So that's where a lot of our focus went.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go next. And social media has become very polarizing. I know that, there are times you even need, and I'm speaking for myself, like almost a mental health break from going down like a social media rabbit hole. Like there's a, it's a tough climate right now. And I'm going to start here with Jill. I think people gravitate towards and certainly react to some more edgy elements that are put out on social media. Teams, I think, put stuff out there in a normal climate. They want to make a splash and get retweets, but today's climate socially, it's been tough to navigate, and people have been almost averse at times to being on social media. How do you balance, Jill, being edgy with also kind of having feel for what's out there and, kind of fitting into what's going on out there without being, disrespectful, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it's tough, especially with everything going on over the last 2 weeks too, with people using social media to get information out about the Black Lives Matter movement. And that's something that I did not want to go anywhere near, in terms of, not that I didn't want to support it, but that was just, it's such a difficult topic to go into,
right,
that you don't want to make jokes about it. You don't want to try to follow it just to follow the trend. So I talked to a lot of my friends who are of color and talked to them about it, and they supported my decision with that. But in terms of being edgy with making jokes about the virus, that was a line that I tried to maintain, where in Visalia, it hit us hard, especially in the nursing homes. And so we make jokes about toilet paper, that kind of thing,
sure,
but never about health and safety. We still always made sure that people were wearing masks in some of our videos and things like that. So we were respectful of the sensitivity of it, but you have to make light about some things. I mean, it's crazy what we're going through. And if you can't laugh about it, what's the point of social media?
Jill, you brought up a great point with the BLM and all that. AJ, I know that with us in Reno, you highlighted what John Duplantier said, and he was part of a conversation a little while ago, and you kind of used his experience and his voice to be out front for the organization. Can you tell us what your thoughts are on that, and using a guy like Dupe to kind of relay the message?
Yeah, so with that, it was a great story that John shared as part of the MLB Black Players Roundtable. And we kind of just saw it as a point that we could use our platform for him. So we reached out to him and literally told him, John, if you want to use our platform for this, for that, feel free, just let us know. If you want to come on the podcast and have a whole episode for yourself, we'd love to echo your message. He's a player that people kind of loved in Reno and think people respect him. So we obviously want to support him and get behind him and just echo his message through our platform.
Yeah, and it was very well done. Kaycea, how have you had to balance it on your end?
Yeah, it's obviously been tricky for the last few months, but June especially with, not only are we still battling COVID, but it's also Pride Month. It's also, Black Lives Matter, and although those things are important all the time, it's especially important, during June. So trying to be sensitive to these things and make sure we're reading our copy several times before we send anything has been especially important lately. I'm not sure how things are in specifically Visalia or Reno, but we're just outside of Portland, Oregon, and Portland is one of the more vocal communities, especially for Black Lives Matter. There's been 10 to 15,000 people walking every single day in these protests. We felt like as an organization, it was something that we wanted to show support for, but we didn't want to come out and make a flat statement on social. We wanted to have it, we wanted to help carry some weight. So similarly, yeah, we amplified what John Duplantier was saying. We reached out to a former player, Trey Holmes, and asked him if he'd be willing to share some comments. And it was really nice to see their heartfelt messages and help share those voices. And we're working on some other action items to help show support instead of just making a statement. So that's where we're at with that.
I think you all bring up a great point where it's a lot of it is about substance, right? Like you can put out there what you want to put out there, but I think for all three of you, substance matters, and the substance of the message matters. And I think that comes through when you bring in a guy like Dupe and whomever else to relay that message. I'll start with Kaycea on this one. It's also a difficult time because baseball is under scrutiny, dealing with a lot of different circumstances in baseball right now with the labor thing. And, there might be a disconnect with some fans because of what's going on. Kaycea, of all the panelists, you've been with Hillsborough the longest. You're in your 8th year. How do you respond with what's going on in baseball right now? And how do you try and reconnect the fans to the game through your social media?
Sure. As far as the ongoing negotiations, it's, obviously it's at the major league level. So it's not anything that we have any control over. And I feel like our sales staff specifically and our leadership team has done a great job of communicating with season ticket holders, with partners, with sponsors, to communicate that, we feel like we're in a pretty good position to be successful moving forward. Obviously we're pretty unlikely to play in 2020, but we are building towards a bigger and better 2021. There's a pretty decent possibility by the sounds of it that we play as a full season team in 2021. And without being able to come out and say that directly, we've been essentially kind of teasing it or leading it to our fans and basically alluding to the fact that bigger and better baseball opportunities are coming to our area. And I think highlighting a lot of the success that we had in 2019, we won the Northwest League. Our team was pretty talented. The Diamondbacks did a good job with their recent drafts. And so just highlighting a lot of those key players that we've had, the success that we had on field, and a lot of the players that are coming up the pipeline. Jill, hopefully you'll see Christian Robinson this next year. He's easily the most talented player we've ever had. Dalton Varsho should spend a lot of time up in Reno. Hopefully not that much time before he's, in the major league. So just trying to capitalize on some of those bigger names and remind our fans of the high quality baseball that we've had there.
Jill, I know Visalia is a very deep-rooted baseball town, and you guys are coming off a season where you finally won a Cal League title. 1978 was the last time up until this past year. So what's been the feeling, if you have any feel at all, among the fans in Visalia with what's going on with baseball right now, and how have they, has there been a disconnect with that fan base, and how have you kept them engaged?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a disconnect. I think the running joke is we broke a 41-year championship drought, and the world was so shocked that baseball was canceled.
Good way to look at it.
Yeah, we're gonna, gotta have a positive spin on social, right? But I think the difficult part for me is, like you said, baseball is so rooted here in Visalia, where people become Diamondbacks fans because of the players in Visalia. And we're going on our 74th year of professional baseball in Visalia. So that's a big deal. And winning a championship, next year is our 75th anniversary. We really want to focus on baseball. And it's hard because there's no baseball content. I think the disconnect, if anything, is that people in Visalia view baseball as the rawhide. And just because the majors start playing, that doesn't mean we're going to start playing. So we're starting to get messages saying, oh, so when's the game starting? That's not how it works. I'm really sorry, but it's not. So that's what I'm struggling with, is telling people just because the majors are happening doesn't mean that we're getting started, and we might not get started until 2021.
AJ, it's a unique situation for you and even for me, because, having spent all my career basically in the Cal League with minor league players, you get to AAA, and now you're dealing with a mixed bag of players. Some are true minor league players, some are 40-man guys, so you have people affected on your roster in different ways. How have you balanced that with what's going on with Major League Baseball right now? Is there kind of a strange wrinkle in that for you, and having to balance it with social media?
Yeah, it's definitely a struggle. It's something that we don't have any control over at all, so something that we just have to deal with. I think what we have to try to do is find the players who are going to be at that major league level and highlight them, the Kevin Crones, the Yasmani Tomases, the guys who maybe are going to step up and be a DH this year who never did. I think that's a way we have to start connecting to fans, even digging back in our past and tying more ties to Christian Walker. Guys who have been here that are now there, we just got to focus on that, since we can't focus on what we don't know.
I want to go next to content creation, which is something that every team is dealing with right now. And I'm going to start with AJ because I'm kind of intimately familiar with the Aces and what they wanted to do. I've talked, with Emily and with Eric, and there was a well laid out plan as to what they wanted to happen as far as content without baseball. And it's been great. I mean, the content has been phenomenal. Did you feel any additional pressure to create content? Because usually it's right there, especially when you turn the calendar to April and even March, like you have the content there waiting. But did you feel any pressure to conjure up a lot of different content to kind of patch things through?
Definitely felt that pressure. It's kind of easy when you're rolling through baseball season to have baseball content. It's pretty easy to go out to batting practice, get a couple pictures that will get you through a couple days.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just really not only pushing to create new content, but get creative, doing coloring books, making silly videos on the field that are a little different than we used to do. I think it's that pressure's there, but it's something that has to be there in order for us to keep succeeding. And I think that we've done well on our team with that, between Vince, myself, and our designer, Blake. I think we've really just pushed through that, just getting creative and finding ways that will engage fans, maybe without as much baseball behind it, and doing more community things too. But yeah, it's just kind of a struggle.
Jill, how about you guys in Visalia?
Yeah, it's tough because we don't have any video of baseball, because this is going to be our first year with the video board, so we don't have really any video content.
I'm missing it.
I know, Zach.
All my days I've spent at Rec Park, I'm missing the big video board reveal.
And I think that's the toughest part. Is video is pretty easy to use for content. You throw it up, you can put in some graphics and everything, but it keeps the viewer interested. And for us, we don't have baseball video. We don't have funny videos of the players dancing and stuff. I think Kane County, they did a best dad's joke thing between Ryan Weiss and Justin Lewis, and that's hilarious. And they did that during their media day. We haven't had a real media day where it's videos. It's usually just photos of our Citrus jerseys and stuff like that. So I'm just kind of like scrolling through my photos on my phone, just trying to find something funny I took even on the road with the players. So I'm struggling with that aspect.
Kaycea, has there been additional pressure for you guys to come up with content?
A little bit. I think through the last few months, we've kind of shifted and highlighted our partners, our sponsors, and that'll continue throughout the summer. A lot of our partnership fulfillments are in-game, on-field games or video board shout-outs or whatever it might be, and obviously we're not going to have that opportunity this year. So a lot of that is going to shift to a digital social activation. We're trying to brainstorm ideas with our mascot to get more involved with them and different community outings, things like that. Our mascot social is kind of a unique opportunity where it's part of the brand, but it's disconnected enough where like his voice on Twitter is a lot more sassy than we might use from the team account, and that opens up some different opportunities to have fun. So trying to activate it through that has been a big shift for us. And the emergence of TikTok has also been important too. We don't have any viral videos yet. We have a couple that are okay, but that's something that we're hoping to capitalize on quite a bit more here.
TikTok, man, that's gonna be the next frontier, isn't it?
Yeah.
I want to go around the horn, and I'll start with Kaycea. Is there a social media account that you kind of look towards as being one that you admire and that you try and follow in their footsteps?
Sure. I mean, within minor league baseball specifically, I think the Diamondbacks family does a pretty good job. But I'm a big fan of Indianapolis. Coincidentally, her name's Casey over there as well, who runs their account. They do an excellent job with their resources and their videos locally. I mean, I think the Portland Trailblazers are a great example. It's obviously an NBA team, but their franchise continues to win Digital Innovator of the Year for the NBA, like year after year. I've gotten to know their team a little bit and try to talk to them as much as I can. They're a great example to follow. And we're seeing a lot of good things out of the NFL as well. The Baltimore Ravens are phenomenal, and then the Los Angeles Chargers as well. I think they do a good job of mixing in a lot of older things, but as well as a lot of new memes and different things like that too. So those are some of the ones that I tend to enjoy.
I'll attest to the Trailblazers. I do play-by-play for Pacific Basketball, and Damon Stoudemire is our head coach. Whenever we go play at Portland, I mean, the Trailblazers social team is there, and they're doing something with Damon, and they've done videos and interviews. So they're on it. I totally have experienced what the Blazers are capable of. Jill,
awesome.
how about you? Is there an account that you look towards that's like an inspiration for what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Kaycea. I think the D-backs family is really good. We're funny, but to the point, good revenue, everything. I look to the Pawtucket Red Sox, soon to be the Worcester Sox, just because
Shout out, hometown.
I worked for Pawtucket for about 2 years, kind of on and off with internships, and I know the person, Joe Jacobs, he's very involved with it there. Mm-hmm. So I look to him for video content because he's very, very good at editing and all of that. I actually kind of talked to some of the guys on the Rawhide last year, asking them which ones they liked, because they're in their early 20s. They know social and they know baseball, so they're going to tell me what stuff that they like, they think isn't too corny. And Jeff Bain actually mentioned Missoula. So I've been following them pretty closely.
All right. AJ, how about you?
Yeah, so as everyone says, the family's great. I love the D-backs family. I think we all do a great job. But at the minor league level, outside of that, I think I look to the Yard Goats. I do like what they do in Hartford. I think they get really creative and kind of use that for some inspiration. And then at the major league level and pro levels, I look to the Boston Bruins. I think they do a really good job of blending their sponsored content with native content. Instead of just throwing up graphics, they do a really good job of hiding that sponsor logo in the corner just enough. I think they do a really good job of that. So for on that end, where I'm doing my sponsorship content, I look to them a lot.
Kind of rounding the corner here and headed for the home stretch, and I'll start with AJ. It's hard to quantify what constitutes success in the social media game, right? Because you could generate revenue, but sometimes that's not all about what it is. Like you could have a ton of retweets that don't generate revenue, but you still get out there and you get your brand out there. At the end of the day, what constitutes success for you? How do you quantify your success with the social media accounts of the Aces?
Yeah, it's a great question. Something I really look at is link clicks. How many people are clicking through our links and getting on our website? That's kind of one of my goals. If I get people on the website, we can retarget them in different ways. So that's kind of the end game, is get people on the website. Are we successfully getting people to click through? That's kind of what I look at as something that is important. Because sometimes our engagement and retweets and likes is low, but we do really well on link clicks. People don't want to like the tweet, but they want to buy what it has, or they want to go read that article. So that's what we look for, get people on our website.
Awesome. Jill?
Yeah, I think I agree with that too, because I've had a lot of retweets or shares on Facebook, but not a lot of packages were sold. So it kind of depends. You can't really base it off of that. Both revenue is important to us, but also if fans kind of are talking about it the next day. So if we've been doing Kids Club birthday posts every single day, sometimes it's 5 kids a day, and I've been getting emails from random parents saying, this is amazing, I want my kids to do this. If we have people reaching out separately talking about it, or if at the game you hear that they liked the video that we posted, things like that. For me personally, I really like it when some of my friends from high school or college will text me and say that was a really funny post, because I force all of my friends to follow us on social. So when they give us, or when they tell me that I did a good job, because again, they're young, they're part of the audience that we want.
Sure. Kaycea, how about you?
Yeah, pretty similar. I think it depends on what type of post it is. If it's, for merchandise or for tickets, whatever, yeah, those link clicks are going to be huge. Sometimes it is just about posting a funny meme, and really you're just tracking impressions at that point. And if you get some of the key accounts to retweet it, it can take off pretty well. So, we track impressions definitely, but it depends on what type of post it is. Yeah.
This is the last one, and then we're going to have to go. But as far as the social media accounts for your respective teams being a vehicle for social messages that are out there, this is a tricky one because, again, there's some polarizing factors. But is it important, do you feel, for your team's social media accounts to also be a vehicle for social messages that are out there and issues that are percolating? And Jill, I'll start with you.
I personally think it's important. I've been struggling with, so for those of you who don't know, a professional softball team got in trouble on Twitter. If you don't know about it, check out my tweet at Jill Guerin. They used...
It's Gearin, by the way, for those listening and not watching.
And they posted a photo of the girls standing for the national anthem, and they used that to tag the president and say, look what we're doing standing for the flag, which can be considered a political tweet. And in my opinion, I think that that person who tweeted it used them standing for their own personal message, not for the team's message. So that's what I'm really trying to focus on, is making sure that the team's message of, we accept everyone here, we love everyone here, and we want you to be a part of our Rawhide family. That's the message that I try to put out with everything going on in the world right now.
It's well said. Kaycea?
Yeah, very similarly. It's like we talked about, it's Pride Month. We hosted a Pride Night last year for the first time. We're, highlighting that throughout the month. Same with our COPA initiatives. We're talking about the Soñadores, which translates to dreamers, which in itself could be used or viewed as a political term. For us, it just highlights that we are inclusive, we are loving, and we try to do our best to, involve everybody in the community. And as mentioned earlier as well, we're trying to make sure that our statements have actions behind them. We're not just, making thin statements. So definitely something that we believe in, yeah.
AJ, I'll give you the last word on this.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something tricky. And I think the key is inclusion. You want everyone to feel included and no one to feel alienated. And that can be a very hard thing to do. And I think the way that we have found success with that is kind of just echoing what our brand is. We kind of get that message from our leadership and from people above us. And as long as on social we are echoing that message of what our brand is, we'll always be all right. We'll never get into trouble because we have such a strong community brand that people like. So as long as we stay to that message, I think we'll be all right.
Hey, thank you all for your time. I admire what you all are doing. This is not an easy time to be doing what you're doing, and you're all doing a fantastic job. So keep up the good work. Kaycea Sawyer with Hillsborough, Jill Guerin with Visalia, AJ Grimm from our Reno Aces. Thank you guys for coming on, and stay safe, stay healthy, and hope to catch you all again soon. All right.
Thanks, Zach. Thanks for having me.
You got it.
Appreciate
We're back with more Aces Loaded podcast after this. Back to close out the Aces Loaded podcast. Thanks so much for being with us today. My thanks again to Kaycea Wallen, the Executive Director of Marketing at Grand Sierra Resort. Thanks to our awesome social media roundtable, our guy AJ Grimm, Jill Guerin of the Visalia Rawhide, Casey Sawyer of the Hillsboro Hops. Thanks to them for coming on and sharing their thoughts. Before I go, I want to remind you to visit renoaces.com, and there you can enter some drawings to win some cool prizes. You can win an Aces custom beer fridge stocked with Aceball Ale, which I'm sure you would love. You could also check out Dave Calvert's photo of the week and many other elements going on at renoaces.com. We'd love for you to visit. You can also get your Aces gear. The team store is open. It is shipping. The BLC gear is there for you. So renoaces.com. Go there and get all your gear and enter all the contests. My thanks to Vince Ruffino for producing. My name is Zack Bayrouty. Thanks so much for being with us. We'll see you next time back on Aces Loaded.